This is Amy Gray-Cunningham, and you are listening to the Butterfly Kisses podcast, a journey of spiritual transformation. It has been my pleasure to speak with some amazing people who have had profound spiritual awakenings. Throughout these conversations, may you experience a life filled with joy, love, and personal growth. Now let's get going. So Liam, thank you for joining us and welcome to Butterfly Kisses. And I can't wait to hear your story about everything to do with the brain. And so tell us a little bit about your secrets of success. How did you get to where you're at? And
okay, well, first, can I say thank you very much for having me on your show. It's a great honor and privilege to be here. So I hope I can share with your listeners some interesting ideas. But basically, probably like you and your listeners, the reason we're all here is we're seeking the meaning of life. And that's what really attracted me to your show, is what is the meaning of life? And I've been seeking that pretty well all my life. But something happened in my mid-40s that really got me to question everything, which was I'd been seeking success through all sorts of different things and building up all of this knowledge, all of these skills and how to be successful in various areas. But it wasn't much help to me in the end, because in my mid-40s, I went from being a multimillionaire to losing everything and becoming homeless.
wow.
And I had to move back in with my elderly mother and sleep on the sofa in her small apartment, in the living room of her small apartment. And I was like, why has this happened to me? How could it have happened to me? Because from my earliest childhood, I remember I was always trying to figure out how to be better, how to have more, how to be successful, and of course, above all, how to be happy. Mm-hmm. And I'd started off with a religious upbringing. I was brought up in a Catholic family back in New Zealand, which is where I'm from. And I was always taught there by my parents and teachers and the people in the church, the answer to getting what you want and being happy and fulfilled is very simple. You ask God for what you want, and you'll get it. You pray for it and you'll get it. And I really took this seriously. And I can remember when I was about 11 or 12 saying to myself, I'm going to test God on this one. And I'm going to go to mass every day for a month, 7 a.m, mass in the middle of winter, every day for a month. And I'm going to ask him for one thing. And I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was to win a competition at school, something like that. Mm-hmm. But I'm really going to test this out. And I didn't get what I asked for, what I'd prayed for. And I looked around at everybody else in the church and my parents and my teachers. And I thought, if I'm really honest, they're not actually any more successful, any happier than anyone else that I know. They've still got problems. They've still got stress, and they've still probably a bit confused with life as well. So I thought, well, this isn't really the answer. So then I went on a quest in a whole lot of other different directions. And I started off thinking, maybe an education is what I need, because someone said, if you have an education, then you'll be happy, then you'll be successful, because you'll be an authority in your field and you'll be able to get a really good job and you'll be happy and successful. So I did that, and I went to university for 7 years and studied music, actually. I became quite an expert on a certain area of music. But again, I noticed that my professors and teachers and the other people, although we all knew a lot, had a lot of knowledge, nobody was particularly happier or more successful than anyone else. So I thought, this isn't the answer. And someone said to me, you need to set up your own business. Go into business for yourself. That's how you can be successful. You can make a lot of money and it'll give you all the freedom to do everything you want to do. So I did that, and I set up my own business. It was actually the first of many businesses. I've had, at last count, about 18 businesses through my life.
Oh, wow.
And sure, I was making more money and I was doing things that gave me more success, if you like. But what I noticed was I also had lots of problems and lots of stress in my life. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, I was starting to believe what I've been told is that, that just comes with being successful. Stress, problems, this roller coaster of trying to get on top of your life. And I thought, there's got to be more to this. So then I cottoned on to the whole area of personal development, self-improvement, self-help. And I really got stuck into this because the people in that area were promising, they had the secrets to success and to happiness. Come follow me, follow my teaching, do what I say to do, and you'll be as rich and happy as I am. So I did that, and I went to seminars all over the world, and from New Zealand, anywhere is a long way away to go to a seminar. But I went and did all of those, and I read all the books, or a lot of books, and I listened to recordings that were like reprogramming your subconscious mind and self-hypnosis, and doing all these sorts of things, changing my beliefs. I was learning about goal setting and learning to set goals and how you achieve them and how you change your thoughts and your beliefs and get motivated and all those things. But I had to be honest, after a little while, that wasn't working for me either, particularly. I still had lots of stress and problems. I had outward success, but I wasn't getting that feeling of what is the meaning of my life? Why am I here? What is this all about? Is it really supposed to be this hard? And I went down the spirituality path as well, and I did lots of spiritual practices. And I learned meditation, which I still practice every day, of course, very powerful. And I learned all sorts of other things as well. But when I got to my mid-40s and I was asleep on or lying on my mother's couch, which wasn't very comfortable, I was thinking, all of this knowledge hasn't really helped me. Why is that? Because I know how to set goals. I know how to use my subconscious, I thought. I know the power of spiritual practice and all these things. This shouldn't have happened to me. And the other thing that shouldn't have happened to me was that I shouldn't have felt like I did, so helpless. I didn't know what to do. I had no clue on how to get myself out of that situation. But eventually I did, and my life sort of moved on after I unraveled all of the mess, got through it all. But my life went in quite a different direction. It was rather strange, because what I noticed was, instead of me struggling for success, struggling to make money or do things I really enjoyed, ideas and opportunities and unexpected people and situations, they all started to come to me. I wasn't without struggle. And, the right relationship came along, a much better one than what I'd had before. And my life was flowing in a much, much better way. And I remember thinking once, hey, this is really strange, because the best part of all is I'm not stressed. I don't have problems, really. I'm feeling in control of my life. I'm really getting up in the morning, looking forward to the day, not dreading my inbox as to what other problems had shown up overnight, And I thought, I really need to figure out what I'm doing differently, because something's working and I want to make sure I keep doing it. So I need to figure out what I'm doing right. And what I discovered, I went on having got so much knowledge from all these different areas, I thought, I'm going to go on a bit of a detective hunt here and try and figure out what's going on. And I thought, putting everything I've learned aside, where can I start? And I started with asking myself a fundamental question, which is, who am I and what am I doing here?
Ooh, there's some deep questions.
Well, the funny thing was, I thought, people have written thousands of books, or thousands of people have written books and different philosophies and ideas, and everyone can discuss those things. But I thought, there's something interesting. What is one thing I'm sure everybody can agree on about who we are and why we're here? And one thing we can all agree on is, no matter who we think we are, we have to accept that we have a biological component. We live in a physical body. We're part of a physical world. So I thought, there's a good place to start. So if I just look at myself purely biologically, discarding the spiritual and all of those things, looking at myself biologically, do I have a purpose? Who am I biologically, and why am I here biologically? And of course, all biological scientists have an answer to that question. There is a purpose to biological life, including our life. And that purpose is to survive and to thrive. In other words, to be the best that you can be, so that you enable your own survival and the survival of the species. And this is the biological purpose of all living life on the planet. Every species is designed to do its best, or every member of a species, to be at its best so that it has the best chance of survival and thriving in its environment. I thought, well, that makes sense. Okay. But one interesting thing I realized from that is that doesn't just mean being at your best physically. because obviously when you're your best physically, that helps you survive and thrive. You can fight off attackers. You can heal from injury more quickly. You can recover or be resistant to disease more quickly. But it also means mentally, spiritually, and emotionally being your best. Because when you're at your best mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, that gives you the greatest chance for survival as well. Because that's when you're most resourceful, you're most creative, you contribute the most to yourself and to the rest of the civilization, of the species. So in a very real sense, our biological purpose, discounting everything else, our biological purpose is to be the best that we can be, which means to be the happiest that we can be. That's why we're here. We're here to be happy. We're not actually here to have problems, because problems and stress take away from our ability to be the best that we can be. They harm us and stop us living our biological purpose. And then I thought, well, that all makes logical sense. So has nature provided us with anything to enable us to be the best that we can be? Has it given us a resource or resources to make sure that happens, or to try and make sure that it happens? And of course it has. And what it is our brain. Our brain is actually there, designed with one specific purpose. Just like every other organ in our body has a specific purpose, our brain has a specific purpose, and that is to make sure that we live a life as the best we can be. And it has the power to do that, to design our life and give us everything we need to give us the best chance of surviving and thriving. And as I looked into the brain, I thought there's a couple of really weird things about this. Firstly, no one's told us how powerful our brain is. And although there've been books written about the power of the brain, and they stop at page, the writers sort of almost keel over with awe at how amazing our brain is. It's vastly more powerful than any other machine or computer or entity or thing that exists. And many, many scientists have said that. Mm-hmm. This is the power of our brain. But here's the thing. So it actually has the ability to give us everything we want, to make sure we live our best life. It has the ability to draw on all the resources it needs to make sure that happens. But the thing about the brain that none of us have been taught is that it is just a machine. It's a biological machine, and it works in a very specific way to do its job. And if you use it the right way, you are going to live that life. You are going to live the life it's designed to make you live, being the best you can be, which means happy and without problems. Actually, that's what it means.
Interesting.
But if you don't use it the right way, you're going to end up with problems in your life. And one of the best illustrations that I've come up with in my simple thinking is, you think about any machine, you think about your car. Mm-hmm. Now, a motor car is a machine that has a specific purpose. It's designed to do a specific job. And that's to get you from where you are to where you want to go. And it's designed to do that efficiently, enjoyably for you, comfortably, and in the best way possible, without any struggle or problems or strain. It's just designed to do that. Mm-hmm. But you also know that you can't just get into a car and expect it to do its job if you don't know how to drive it. You have to know what to do to allow it to do that. And of course, none of us would dream of getting in a motor car or telling anyone to get into a motor car and expect it to do anything if they hadn't taken lessons on how to drive it. Mm-hmm. Imagine getting into your car and you look at or someone getting into a car and look at all the levers and buttons and going, I don't know what any of this means, but well, they say it's supposed to go from A to B. Oh, okay, well, maybe I can figure it out. I know what I'll do. It's got wheels. I'll get out of the car and I'll get behind it and I'll push it to where it's supposed to go. Maybe that's how it's supposed to work. And I'll put in all of this effort and really struggle and push, because that's the way I think it works. And what happens then? All that person ends up with is they're tired, exhausted, and it's not getting anywhere. Or if it is, it's with a huge amount of effort and struggle. But it's not the way it's designed to work. And then what most of us do, or what a person in that situation might do, is they might think, I know, I'm not strong enough. I need to build up my resources. I need to build up my muscles. I need to be stronger. I need to be more determined, more motivated. I will overcome this obstacle. I will do it. And so we put in even more effort because we think we're the problem. We don't realize that we're using it in completely the wrong way. And that's exactly how our brain works. And in a very real sense, as I said earlier, just like with a car, if you use it the wrong way, if you get in and you keep the handbrake on and you push down the accelerator and you don't know what you're doing, something might go wrong with the car. It probably will. So you're going to end up with a problem. It's going to be a struggle and you're going to end up with problems. Now, that's exactly, it turns out, how our brain machine works. If you don't use it the right way, if you don't know how to use it, you end up with struggle and problems, because it's not designed to give you problems when it's used the right way. So that's really become not only the basis of how I live now and what I figured out what I was doing differently, and it was using the brain in a different way without realizing it. But that's really the basis of what I teach now and how I coach people, firstly, to understand what your brain is, how it works, and how you can use it to start getting the life that you're supposed to have. This great, happy life, being the best that you can be. So you're surviving and thriving, contributing, carrying out your biological purpose, which is to make your contribution to the survival of the human species. And you have a great life. That's part of it. That's what you're supposed to have. That's it.
That's a very interesting analogy. I love the story or the analogy you use with the car, because you're so right on. I mean, we get in, we just keep trying to push it and think that we're the problem when maybe we're not using our. So what are some tips or tricks or ways to use your brain in the appropriate way to be able to get the life that you want or desire?
Well, maybe what I could give your listeners is a quick overview of how the brain works, because the beauty of this is, what I realized, it's like a motor car. When you understand how it works, and you don't need to know how every little wire and whatever does, you just need to know the few things that you need to do to make it work. And then the beauty of that is, when you understand that, how it's designed to work, you go, wow, this is the way to use it. I wouldn't dream of using it any other way. And so you start to do it naturally, or at least you start to do the things and realize the reasons why you're not using it the right way. So perhaps I could just give you a quick overview.
Yeah, that would be great.
I go into a lot more detail about this in my website, and I've got my own podcast about this in my coaching. But basically, the way your brain works is there are 4 parts to it. And I can give you all the technical words and all the scientific names and descriptions, but I've simplified this down into a model that I use to teach people. So the 4 parts of your brain, the first one is your thinking brain. And this exists on the top of your head. And what your thinking brain is all about is that in every moment of your life, all of the information that's coming to you through your 5 senses, what you see, smell, taste, touch, and hear, and all your thoughts go into your thinking brain, and they get stored in there as information. So this is like a big library or a database of all of your experience, all of your knowledge, all of the things you've accumulated in your life. That is information. That's your thinking brain. The second part of your brain is your emotional brain, your feeling brain. This is responsible for creating your feelings, and it produces chemicals, obviously, to make you feel a certain way. So you either feel really good, loving, grateful, creative, happy, all of those things, or you can feel bad, stressed, worried, afraid, anxious. This is all controlled by your feeling brain, and that's located actually just below the thinking brain inside your head. These are all physical locations. This isn't a sort of a theoretical idea. This is based on science. The third part of your brain is at the back of your head, and it's called what I call your survival brain. And this looks after everything about you that needs to happen for you to survive without you thinking about it. Obviously your heart beating, your breathing, all of your organs. It's all the stuff that just happens to keep you alive. And there's one other really important function of the survival brain, which I'll come to a bit later, because this is really an interesting point, really. And that is, every now and then, what your brain is supposed to be telling you is, with all this information that's coming in, it's actually the emotional brain which decides whether it's good or bad. And if it's good, you're happy. But if you see an immediate danger, if your brain sees an immediate danger, it's designed to get you to react, to get rid of that danger instantly, without thinking. And this is the fight, flight, freeze response, or the survival mechanism we've all heard about. And the way it's designed to work is, say, in prehistoric times, the lion comes rushing out at you through the forest. Your brain says, there's a danger. There's an immediate threat to your survival. There is something that could right now harm you. So it snaps your brain it sends that signal to your brain and snaps you into a state called your sympathetic nervous state. It activates something called your sympathetic nervous system. And all the resources of your brain immediately focus on getting rid of that immediate danger, that threat. So you might run away or shout out for help or try and fight whatever it is that's attacking you. So this is an automatic response, isn't it? You're not thinking about it. And I'm sure we've all had that experience. So that's absolutely brilliant, a brilliant part of survival brain and a necessary part of the survival brain. So that's all survival brain. The fourth part of the brain, and this has only relatively recently been discovered, that this is a separate part of the brain, and it's what I call the creative brain. Now, this is not your thoughts, this is not your feelings, but it's your intuition, it's your imagination, it's your creativity. It's where you get these moments of, I see something new, you have this awareness. It's where the spiritual component comes from as well. Mm-hmm. And you have this gut feeling that something's right or something isn't right. And it's where you know what to do. You come up with solutions to problems. If you have them, you know what to do to avoid doing the wrong things. Feeling that comes from where you feel motivated to do things. It's where you're creative. Musicians describe things like saying, I heard the music and then I wrote it down. Now, it didn't come from their thinking brain. They don't know where it comes from. And creators say this, I don't know where I got the idea from, or how I wrote this down, or I saw the painting and then I painted it. This is all part of your creative brain. And the other thing that is part of your creative brain is, remember I mentioned the brain is almost infinitely powerful. And on a certain level of awareness, we think things that happen to us are coincidence and luck. But on the level of awareness of your creative brain, these are not luck or coincidence at all, because nothing could happen randomly in this universe. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. It couldn't exist. Mm-hmm. So your brain, with its power, actually what it's bringing to you as part of its job to make you the best that you can be and to give you the best life possible, it's bringing to you the right people to enable you to do that, and the right ideas and the right circumstances, the right situations. On one level, as I say, it appears like synchronicity or coincidence, but it's not. This is all the workings of your creative brain. So here's how you're supposed to live. You're supposed to live with your creative brain running the show, where you're feeling in the flow, in the zone. You probably heard those expressions. These are ways of describing. This is your natural creative state. This is when you are at your best. Science has a word for this called homeostasis, which means the perfect functioning of the organism. It's when everything is operating physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, to make you the best that you can be. You're creative, as I say, you're imaginative, you're coming up with better ways to do things and ways to contribute to your own pleasure in life and your own and that of the rest of society as well. That's the way we're supposed to live. That's our natural state, being happy, feeling great. There's only one time you're not supposed to feel like that. And that's when the lion rushes out at you from the forest. And what happens there is something really interesting. Because when you think about it, all your creativity and all of those things, they're not any use to you to fight a lion. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be thinking about anything else. You have to just focus on jumping out of the way or running or fighting or shouting, just doing it instinctively. So what your brain actually does, when it sees something of danger in your life, it makes you focus totally on that immediate threat. But what it does is it shuts down all of your access to this part of your brain. This part of your brain literally shuts down because it's of no use in that survival situation. So, and that's perfect. That's what it's there for. Because the idea is, as soon as your brain removes the danger, that immediate threat, so you jump out of the way or fight back and whatever you do, you shout for help, whatever you do to get yourself out of that situation, as soon as that's gone, you go back to your natural creative state, being happy, being loving, being generous, being creative, being resourceful, making the right decisions, having the right people showing up in your life for you to live this biological purpose of being the best you can be. But here's the problem. Most people are using their brain in their survival fear state, and they're trying to create their life when they've blocked off physically access to all the resources that will allow them to do that. Because fear is the signal that you are in this reactive state. So when you feel fear, which also means worry, stress, anxiety, what you're actually doing in your brain is you're shutting down all your creative resources, and your brain is saying there's an immediate threat to your danger, and all you can do is react. And that's what people do with their problems. They react. They shout and get angry, or they try and find a solution, rather than realizing that the answers to all of their problems are in this other part of their brain that they can't have access to. They don't have the big picture. They don't literally have the ability to solve their problems. And that's what I used to do with all my stress and struggle. And I didn't realize that I was really fighting a losing game. I was trying to use a very limited, very negative part of my brain, because the other thing this part of your brain does is it shuts down anything positive in your environment. It makes everything appear negative. And because it has to, it's looking for the danger. It's looking for the immediate threat. All right, there's a lion there. Is there another lion there? What other threats and dangers do I have in my environment? And you can see how that comes into people's life, why people see things as worse than they actually are. That's what that part of the brain is designed to get you to do, is to get you to see everything as worse than it is. So everyone's stressed about, oh, what's going on in the world and everything. All that's really happening is they're using their brain in the wrong way to make them think that they're in danger, that they're a threat. And everything is shut down. All of their resources to really live their ideal life are not available to them in that state. So the obvious answer is to use your brain the right way. All you need to do is stop being afraid of things that aren't real dangers. It's as simple as that. Funnily enough, the Bible has this all laid out explicitly. The Bible is actually a really good manual on how to use your brain. It tells you exactly. It says more than 360 times in the Bible, be not afraid, have faith, have no fear. It's not saying that because it's a nice idea and you should try and do that. It's saying that that's not how you're supposed to operate. You can't operate when you're afraid. Simple as that.
That is another interesting way to look at that. I hadn't thought of that before. And I do know that people live in the fight or flight mode that's what actually causes a lot of disease within the body, is because their
disease.
Their bodies are in so much turmoil. So how can you go from being in that fight or flight survival mode, shut that down, and go into the creative calm, the part of the brain you're supposed to be in?
Yeah. What I find is, and it certainly was the same for me and people I've helped with this, just by understanding how your brain works, understanding that fear is the enemy. If you feel fear, anxiety, or worry or stress, you literally are blocking out your ability to create anything meaningful in your life. You're going to make the wrong decisions. You're going to not see the big picture about things. And that was how I lived for most of the time. But it's a bit like a car. Once you know, and I think I said this earlier, once you know how it works, and you know that fear is the enemy, you feel fear, you're finished, unless there is something about to hit you or attack you. Once you understand that, then the answer is simple. You say to yourself, I've got to make sure I don't feel fear. I've got to stop putting stuff in my head that makes me feel bad. And whether that means turning off the television, whether it means not talking to that person in a negative conversation, whether it means not being involved with that person who makes me feel bad, whether it's having whatever it is, fear is the enemy, because that's going to stop you. It's a little bit like another analogy. Someone comes along to you and gives you a glass of hydrochloric acid, says, drink that and I'll give you $1 million. And you go, what? No way I'm going to drink that. And they say, well, I'll give you $10 million then, and it'll be good for you. Are you crazy? If I drank that, it's going to really damage me. So it doesn't matter how, it doesn't matter how motivated you are or how much you want to believe that it doesn't work that way. They could say, well, if you believe it won't harm you, and if you pray, and if you're really motivated, and if you just practice this breathing technique or whatever, you'll be okay. And you go, no, hang on. Doesn't matter what other ideas you come up with. If I drink that, I'm going to be very sick, if not die. It's going to harm me. And it's the same with our brain. And so no matter what justification you feel that you have for having negativity making you feel bad, putting stuff in the way of external influences that make you feel bad. It doesn't matter how justified you feel about it in terms of saying, well, you have to stay informed about what's going on in the world, or I don't want to upset that person, or, I've got too much to lose by ending that relationship. Not that I'm suggesting anyone end their relationship just based on that. But whatever it is, you realize it's not worth the price to pay. It's not worth putting negative stuff in, because it's literally blocking you from all of the resources to give you a great life, which is what we're all looking for anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big part of my coaching program. After really are three things. First, understand how your brain works, and that's going to immediately make you say, well, there's no way I'm going to do it any other. I'm going to try and make sure I don't put fear and anxiety into my life. And the second thing is to look at everything that you're putting in and realize it is toxic on a very physical level. It's stopping you from being the best you can be. And then when you're the best you can be, that's when you can, if you want to do things for society, if you want to help the world, you can only do it when you're the best that you can be. That's when you're resourceful and you come up with great ideas and really ways that will improve the world. You can't do that in your survival brain. It's just not, it's not where it is. It's in your creative brain, and you're blocking it off.
Interesting.
So, and unfortunately, what most people do is they're trying to solve their problems by trying to solve their problems. That's not how you solve problems, as we'll find out. That's what I found out. I learned more things, and I tried harder, and I was more motivated, and I took a lot more action, but it didn't really solve my problems, because the things I should have been doing, I wasn't aware of. I just kept messing things up because I was using my thinking brain and my survival brain to try and make it work. Now, remember, your thinking brain, this is not your thoughts. Your thoughts you won't find the information on how to solve your problems and create your ideal life in the part of your brain that's the library of all your past experiences. It's not there. And this is part of the problem that I've found with setting goals, is because people try and figure out what they want to be happy. And what they're using is their thinking part of their brain, which doesn't know what you want to be happy. All it knows is the ideas that it's picked up about what might make you happy. So it thinks, oh, well, you want to be happy? Well, I hear that, I think I've got in here somewhere where if you earn $1 million a year, you'll be happy, because we picked up a bit of information about rich people that they're happy or whatever. Okay, well, then I'll make that my goal, and I'll go after that, because that must be what will make me happy. But that part of your brain, it's not in there, what will make you happy. But your creative part, this is the part that's connected to infinite intelligence. This is where your true spiritual connection is. It knows what you need to be happy, more than you think you know. So when you access that, the beauty with that, when you access that, when you know you've got this machine working for you, you don't need to get stressed and worried and try and figure stuff out. You just act on the next thing that comes along, which again, it talks about in the Bible. Give no thought for tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Now, it's not saying tomorrow meaning when the sun rises. Tomorrow, as we know, is the next moment. So when you're not worried about the next moment, when you're not trying to figure out the next moment, your creative brain is working on making it all in the present work for you, which of course is the only place where we exist, is in the present anyway. So that's the beauty of it. So it takes away, all this understanding takes away all this pressure and stress and fear and worry and trying to figure things out and trying to work things out and putting all this pressure on yourself. Instead of using this tiny little bit of your brain that doesn't know the answers, why not use the part of your brain that does know the answers? But that's the part you've got to trust, because it's not your thoughts. It's much deeper understanding than that.
Are you searching for a deeper connection with the unseen world? Well, then look no further. I am Amy Gray-Cunningham, and I invite you to explore the realms beyond the ordinary. As a gifted medium, I've spent years honing my abilities to bridge the gap between our world and the spirit realm. My unique approach to mediumship combines intuition, empathy, and a profound understanding of the unseen energies around us. Through a mediumship session, I can help you connect with your loved ones who have passed on, providing comfort, healing, and profound insights. Whether you're seeking closure, guidance, or simply a sense of peace, My mediumship sessions provide a secure and nurturing space for you to delve into the mysteries of the afterlife. Join me today on a transformative journey as I channel messages from the other side, offering validation, clarity, and a profound sense of connection to those who have crossed over. Book your mediumship session with me today. A typical session lasts about 50 minutes, giving us ample time to connect and for you to experience the power of a spiritual connection. So visit my website at amygray-cunningham.com to schedule your session. Now get ready to unlock the healing that awaits you. How do you know when you've accessed your creative brain, or when you're
feeling good?
When you're
feeling good.
Wow. Yeah.
And most of the time, there's only one place we feel good, and that's in the present moment. And that's the place we hardly spend any time in, isn't it? We're worried about the future, we're regretting the past. But when you get beyond your thoughts, which is being in the present moment, you can actually feel good. And that's when your creative brain can really work for you. And you get those insights, and you start to see the world in a different way, in a more spiritual way. You start to see the oneness of everything, the reality of everything, that you're not some limited, helpless, weak thing that's at the mercy of circumstance. You have this infinitely powerful machine, and you have a role to play here to express your infinite self. That's the beauty of it. And you start to feel all these things. They talk about enlightenment is one word that's been used to describe being in the present and allowing our creative brain to create our life. But it's the one place where there is no fear as well. You just have a knowingness. It's not, I think things are good. It's, I know things are good. I can see things in a much better way because, we live in an infinite universe. And if we actually stopped for 1 second or 10 seconds and really looked at something, we would be astounded at what starts to show up in our awareness about the way things actually are. If that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. I'm sitting here thinking, wow, because the present moment is called the present for a reason.
It's all we have.
Yeah.
It's all that reality is. And yet we don't, we're still living in this fear-based brain, because remember, the fear-based part of your brain can't deal with this concept of the present moment because it's looking for a problem. It's looking for danger. And in fact, if it can't find anything, it's going to make a problem for you. And that's why I realized why I kept getting problems show up, because in this fear anxious state where you've activated, remember, this is all physical, you've activated your sympathetic nervous system, which is designed to root out any danger or problem in your immediate situation. So it's desperately looking, because your life might depend on it, if it is a real threat, a danger, it's desperately looking for everything that could possibly be wrong in your life. And it's blocking out your ability to see that actually probably isn't much wrong in your life as well. So this is just the way, this is what I've come to realize is the way it works, really. And none of us, we were taught about it in the Bible. It tells us that in the Bible, but we didn't realize why. And we were not good enough people to just say, okay, I'm going to do it. And this is the problem with prayer, isn't it? People pray for what they want, but they don't realize that if they're in a state of fear and anxiety when they're praying, they're not going to get it, because they're not using their brain the right way to actually get what they want, which is to be happy. They're not trusting. And it's a physical thing, which ties in, of course, with the mental, spiritual aspect of ourselves. That's how we access the spiritual part of ourselves, is through our creative brain. It's not through our thinking brain. It's not through our feeling brain. It's not through our survival fear-based brain. It's through our creative brain.
Can you shut down all of the thinking and the emotional and the survival brain by meditation and go into is that why meditation works? Is because you're shutting down those other parts of your brain and going into the creative brain?
I think meditation's helpful. I certainly still do it myself, but the only problem with that is it's a temporary thing. What you really need to do is to retrain your brain so that you live in the state most, if not all of the time. And you are naturally designed to live in that state. And that's the thing. You don't actually need to get or train yourself to be at some level of ability to do this, what you really do is get back to your natural state and to figure out what sent me in the wrong direction. Why am I not living in my natural state? And the steps are: understand what your natural state is, how your brain is designed to get you there, how fear is the enemy. And there's two types of fear you need to get rid of. And of course, this isn't a quick fix, but it's a permanent fix. Mm-hmm. The first sort of way to get rid of fear, you've got to stop fear coming in. You've got to stop turning on the news, doing things that are making you feel bad. And I coach people in my coaching program, this is part of it, is identifying what are all the things that are actually making you feel bad that you're not even aware of. Some of them are chemical, some of them are physical, some of them are mental. And the third thing, once you've stopped doing that, once you've stopped adding more toxin to your system, if you like, you've got to deal with what's already in there, because you've spent a lifetime being told things and given information that has made you feel life's a struggle, life's hard, life's dangerous. There are all of these things that are a threat to you, and your brain has got to a state where it can't distinguish between real fear, the lion coming at you, and an imaginary fear, which is turning on the news and someone saying World War III might happen because someone might drop a bomb on your head. Your brain doesn't see the difference. But once you get into this creative state, you think there's nothing to be afraid of apart from the lion running out of the jungle. And even the fear of death is irrational. You know, I'm sure you've looked into near-death experiences. I know there've been more than 10,000 documented cases of people who've had near-death experiences, and when they've all come back after, you know, dying on the operating table or whatever, and the doctors bring them back, the first thing they've all said is, "Why did you bring me back? It was so much better there. I can see that there's no such thing as death. Death is just a change of state. There's so much better there. I want to go back. I want to go back." And yet we have this fear of death, don't we? Which from our creative brain is a very illogical fear. Obviously, from our fear-based brain, it's designed to keep us alive and make sure we don't die. So there's a bit of a conflict that goes on there. But when you raise your awareness and you live in your creative brain, you don't have a fear of death either, because you realize, well, you actually look forward to it, if anything. You know, this is, wow, can't wait to see all the goodies on the other side. You know, I've got my list.
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. You know, it's funny because one of the things that you were talking about that I think is going to be a great little analogy, that, you know, when you're in the car and you're backing up and you've got the sensors on the side of your car now, and there's a car or, you know, a garbage can or something that's going to be in the way, and the sensors go off, fear and anxiety are your warning system that you're in the wrong brain, or you're using the wrong part of your brain. And
well, no, that's true, but that's good. You want the warning bells to go off if you are going to hit a rubbish can, but you don't want them to go off when there's no danger there.
Yes,
that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, it's a good analogy. Thank you. Yeah.
But it's great to think, you know, so when you start to feel that, you're like, oh, wait a minute. Okay. Is there really a garbage can there that I'm going to run into, or is it just a shadow?
Yeah.
Seeing.
Is it something I think might happen that might be bad, or is it something that's going to chop my leg off right here and now?
Yes. Do I need to stop or push the gas, or do I need to just take a breath? Very interesting. I like how you've simplified this, and you've made it very, very easy to follow. I love that. So where can people find you? How can they work with you? I see that you also have over 20 books. Wow.
Yes, well, I do a lot of marriage and relationship coaching as well. This is one of the areas I got into. And this is really that was one of the ways I got into discovering this about the brain, because I usually help people who are in a very bad situation in their marriage. And people would come to me and say, you know, my marriage is going to end. What can I do to fix it? And I have some coaching programs that are very effective. And I still do a lot of this work. And most of my books actually are in that relationship area. But I used to be puzzled as to why some people got the result they wanted. Some people were able to heal their marriage and create a great marriage, and other people weren't. But I essentially gave everyone the same information about what to do. So I knew it wasn't a question of information. It also wasn't a question of motivation. Everybody was very motivated if their marriage wasn't going well. They really wanted to fix it. They said to me, I'll do anything, Liam, to fix this. And it wasn't a question of prayer. Some people would say, I'm really praying for my marriage to be healed, and it didn't. And other people didn't pray, and they did heal their marriage. So that's when I realized, and when I was able to, in an ethical way, analyze the people I was working with to see it purely came down to how they were using their brain. If their marriage situation created fear, worry, and anxiety for them, they couldn't see the right things to do. They would just do all the wrong things to make it worse. But if they were able to say, I'm not afraid if my marriage ends, you know, the right thing will happen. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and I'm really not afraid of it, then they had actually had more chance of healing their marriage, because they could start to do the right things. Their brain would bring to them all the right solutions to make them happy, be the best they could be, and create the right relationship. So that's how I sort of got into it. And then I branched out more into really a wider coaching for people, because this is relevant not just to our marriage or our relationship, but to our whole life. You know, so I now have a coaching program, and I have a technology or a process that I've developed called neurostate rebalancing, which is about getting your brain back into balance so that you use it the right way. And that deals with the part when you're, because my coaching program is understanding the brain, understanding what's coming in that you've got to stop allowing to come in, and then understanding how to get rid of the stuff that's already there by teaching, as I said earlier, teaching your brain the difference between real fear and imaginary fear. And that's what my process, neurostate rebalancing, does. So that's me.
I love it. I love it, Liam. Thank you for, I mean, this is very good information, and I hope people are listening and taking it to heart, because wow, I can actually see it in my head, in my brain, how all the parts are aligning. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. I really like that. So what is one thing that people can do today, besides reaching out to you, to start living more in their creative brain?
I'll answer that question, and then I'll tell you why I don't want to answer it, because it's a question that comes from the wrong part of the brain. How's that for catching you out? The thing you need to do is start becoming aware of what's making you feel bad and stop letting it into your life. But the big picture, so that's the quick, but the funny thing is, when you're in that fear state, and I know you're not in the fear state right now, but when you're not in your creative brain knows there are no quick fixes. So to ask for a quick fix is the wrong thing. It's your survival brain that wants quick fixes. It wants to know exactly what to do to jump out of the way from the lion. And the problem is quick fixes don't work, because another analogy is if you come home into your house one day and there's a crack on the wall, you look at it and say, I've got a problem there. What do I do? So you think, well, I need to figure out how to fix the crack. So you look it up and you read a book, or you go on YouTube and look up a video on how to fix cracks, and you go down to the hardware shop and you buy the stuff, and you know how to, and you go, great, problem solved. But you come home the next day and there are 2 cracks in the wall. You think, oh well, got another one. And you get busy fixing those as well, quick fixes. And every day you come home, there's more and more cracks in the wall. Now you're spending your life doing little quick fixes, feeling a little bit better, right? I think I've solved the problem this time, but the problem keeps coming back. But what you need to do is to realize what I should be doing is I should be getting underneath the house and finding out what's causing these cracks in the wall to appear. The cracks are just the symptom. They're not the problem. So that's when you go, right, well, I've got a bit of a big job here. I've got to fix the foundations to my entire house. And that's going to take a little bit more effort, quite a bit more effort, a bit more time. I'm going to need a lot more information on how to do it. But the great thing is, once I've done that, I'll never have another problem with the walls in my house. The problem will be fixed. Then I can go on and enjoy living in the house, which is what I've got it for, rather than to be fixing all the cracks. So that's what we've got to realize about our life, is that instead of looking for quick fixes, which is what your limited thinking brain wants, give me a quick fix to make me feel a bit better. And sometimes it brings you quick fixes like, yeah, just smoke this stuff, or drink this stuff, or shout at somebody, or watch something mindless, that all these things that make you just feel a little bit better in the moment. That's your survival brain giving you a quick solution to feeling bad. It's a temporary, very temporary relief. But it can never have the permanent solution. It doesn't know that. That's in your creative brain. So instead of looking for quick fixes, you've got to be prepared to say, I'm going to do a little bit of work to understand how my house is built, how the car works, and then do the things to sort of reorganize on a fundamental level myself, and then my life, then I can just enjoy the rest of my life, basically.
Yes.
Which is what we're supposed to do. We're not here to struggle. If you look at nature, is there any struggle in nature? Go out and look at a bird. People go outside, look at a bird for 5 minutes and really start to see what a bird is doing in its environment. It's not struggling. If it wants to fly, it just flies. If it wants to eat something, it turns its head and food is there and it just eats it. And you look at insects, anything in nature, that's the way the world is set up. It's not set up for struggle. I mean, there's life and death, in other words, change of state, but there's no struggle. We're the only ones who struggle because the bird's using its machine the right way. We're not. We create problems and we struggle. We're not supposed to struggle. We're here to enjoy it.
Why do you think people struggle?
Because they're using their brain the wrong way. They don't realize that struggle comes from fear and stress. That's what's causing them to struggle. They think, if I struggle enough, I'll be able to get rid of my fear and stress. They don't realize it's the other way around. If you get rid of your fear and stress, you get rid of your struggle. Your brain takes over and does the job, does the work. It's the other way around. But we've never been taught this. We don't understand this. I didn't know this, and I'd studied all this mountainous stuff beforehand, got me into terrible trouble. But again, I'm really glad I went through that experience of losing everything and being forced to change direction and forced to really think I need to find an answer here. And, as I say, I was forced to change direction. And it turned out, when I figured out what I was doing, that it was the greatest gift, really, to have that happen.
It's amazing how simple it is. I'm just blown away by the simplicity. It's just, my mouth is like open and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And it's very encouraging at the same time. I mean, very encouraging at the simplicity, but yet there's also work that needs to go with it.
It's no more difficult than getting into your car
and pushing.
Taking the handbrake off, turning the engine on, gently pressing the accelerator and steering. It's no more difficult than that when you've got when you've re-switched your brain to do that, Very
cool. Well, where can people find you, Liam?
Well, they can find me on my website, which is just my name, liamnaden.com. And everything's there. Actually, I've created something which your listeners are very welcome to download. It's a free gift. Although I say I don't believe in quick fixes, some people have said to me, well, how can I have an experience of using my creative brain? In other words, using my brain the right way rather than the wrong way. And I've created an audio, which is it's called a neuro-balancing experience called Solve Your Problem. So if you've got a problem, if you as a listener, not you, but one, if you have a problem, when you listen to this, what it'll take you is from this limited part of your brain that can't find the answer to your problem, it'll take you to this creative part of your brain, and it will help you, it will bring you solutions to the problem that you're dealing with. Because one of the things I find when people have a taste of this, when they start to see it working, first you have to sort of believe it. Oh, yeah, well, that sounds right. Yeah, it's simple and it sounds right. But when you actually see it in practice in your own life, you go, wow, this is amazing. And then you want to do it more and more. And that's when you start trusting more and more in your creative brain. And you're not worried about things and trying to figure things out. And that's when your brain finally goes, oh, at last, you're out of the way. You can let me get on and do my job now. Thanks.
It's really going.
So that's on my website for people like that. You can just it's called Solve Your Problem Neuro-Balancing Experience. It's an audio.
I will have it on the show notes and also in the blog as well. So for anyone who's interested in it, that would be awesome. And so one more question that I ask everyone, and I'm going to ask you as well. If you have an hour to spend chatting with your favorite person, whether that person is alive or on the other side of the veil, who would you be talking to and what would you talk about?
I do this all the time. It's myself, my higher self, my true self. I love talking to that person because that person is so wise. It's my connection to infinite knowledge, infinite intelligence, and I'm not. I used to be amazed, but now I know how it works. I get the answers to questions I ask when I'm in the right state. If I'm all stressed and worried, I don't have access to that part of my brain. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, and I'm not saying this from an egotistical point of view. It's just, you are actually an expression of an infinite intelligence. You have access to all knowledge. You just need to tap into it, and it's easy to do. It's easy to find, and you can have conversations for hours, not just an hour, but for hours. It's fascinating. I
I
hope
love,
that's all right to say that, but
oh no, and you're the first person that has actually said your higher self. I love that. That would be an
your
interesting
true
person.
self,
Your true
your
self, yeah.
real self. Yeah.
The soul, yeah. The one you were created to be. I love it. Well, Liam, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom. And this has just been fascinating. I am just blown away, mind blown. Literally.
It is fascinating stuff, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
is. It is very fascinating.
Yeah.
I've totally enjoyed it. I could probably talk with you for several more hours about it. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, but thank
Anytime.
you. Well, I may just have to have you back on so you can talk some more about it.
Sure.
Because this is very interesting, very, very interesting. And I appreciate your time today. And
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been really great. I've enjoyed it.
yes. Well, go and enjoy the rest of your time in southern France. I love it.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Butterfly Kisses podcast, a journey of spiritual transformation. We hope today's episode has sparked new thoughts, offered fresh perspectives, or simply entertained you. Remember, the conversation doesn't have to end here. Connect with us on social media, share your thoughts, and stay engaged. Also, share it with a friend. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep embracing the journey of spiritual transformation. Take care, and we'll catch you on the next episode. See ya!